Hello again everybody. Right, I've been asked a couple of times now for how do I make a quiche. I don't know how you make one, but I'm going to show you how I make one. And I'm going to make my kids' favourite quiche, which I've nicknamed pizza quiche. So, first of all, we need to make the pizza case. So we're going to make some pastry. But because we've got sticky dough, I need to take my ring off. So handing it to my able assistant here. I'd like to take you through the ingredients and the things that we need. Obviously we need a good sized bowl. You're going to be flicking flour around all over the place. Don't use a small one. Sieve, because sifting the flour makes it a better dough. Plain or all-purpose flour. Some margarine, you can use butter. I keep this as a vegetarian, so I don't use lard in my short crust, which is the pastry that we're making. Salt, don't worry guys, I'm not about to give you a heart attack. It's just I've decanted some into a dish so that there's no shop labels and brand names on show. Plain water, just cold water. I've got a knife which has got a good sharp edge. These knives incidentally are actually, if you have a steel you can actually sharpen it. You'll be able to see the lines on there where I've sharpened it in the past. A fork just for mixing, because let's face it, nobody wants the ooky fingers immediately. And a spoon for the salt. Rolling pin for later for, you know, knocking out errant cats and then knocking out a nice flat dough. I've pre-buttered my quiche tin, or my flan tin if you like. It's just same marge that I've used. I've just done a light coating. I have baking beans. These are my baking beans. They have been through the oven many times now. And I have some parchment. I'll show you what to do with that later. Okay, so first things first, hands. So the song is
Happy Birthday.
marvellous. So soap on. Ready? Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to Le Monde. Happy birthday to you. Right, okay, rinse them off. Whoop. Thank you very much. My able assistant reaching, which is why you just had a quick look out the window. Or potentially down the sink. Okay, I've already set the oven to 200 degrees Celsius. Now mine is a fan oven, you can probably hear it. 220 if it's electric, non-fan. 400 to 425 for Fahrenheit, and about, just checking, gas mark 6. Long time since I've used the gas cooker and I really do miss it. Okay, first up, this is actually really quick to do. You can make this in advance, store it in a bag, keep it in the fridge. Bring it out when you need it. Okay, first off, we're going to sift the flour. Now don't worry if it doesn't all go into the sieve, because undoubtedly it'll get a bit carried away. I'm just lucky because this bowl actually fits in here. This, now the quantities, because I've got quite a large flan case, I've actually used 1.5 times the recipe. So for you guys, for one batch it will be 8 ounces of plain all-purpose flour. That's the rest of it. Really quickly. Should get a bit of salsa music on here and get your hips going. lumps, just give them a push through. They'll go straight through. Right. Put that to the side. Now we need, in with the flour, we need, for you, 1/4 teaspoon. Okay. I need just over that. Just sprinkle that over the top. Now this is just plain good old table salt. The same stuff you throw on your chips. Now we're not getting messy yet. We have, or you will have, 4 ounces of butter, margarine, whichever fat you decide to use. Perfectly adequate to use things like vegan butters and things like that. It will work exactly the same, you just need fat in it. Okay, so we plop that in, scrape out it's a bit stuck in there, so. And then we cut. I know you're thinking, cut? We're going to cut the fat into little pieces before we rub it. As we're doing that, we're already working a bit of the flour into the fat. Now in days gone by, you would have used like 1/3 to a half lard, and the rest would be margarine or butter. But obviously we live in a world where we're protecting animals now, so vegetarian is much better. Not quite as good a pastry as you used to get, but definitely much healthier for your heart. So I'm just pushing it around as I do, just looking for the lumps and cutting it in. Just scrape it on the edge and push it back in again. But you can see how this has already got a lot of flour mixed into it. Now, the lumps are getting a lot smaller, but I'm starting to not be able to see them. So, let's find out where they are. And all we need to do is shake it down. You see how all the large lumps come to the top? And we'll just carry on. Chop it down a little bit more. The further down we get this chopped, 1, you keep the texture of the flour. 2, it's less rubbing to do in a minute. So I think that's probably as good as I'm going to get it there without spending hours getting it all itty bitty. But then again, see, the colour has changed yet again. It's more of a creamy colour from the yellow we originally put in there. Okay. Ooh. Now, don't wash your knife, you'll need that later. Pop it to the side. Obviously our hands are clean. And you put your hands in. Ideally, your hands will be quite cool. You need to only use your fingertips. And we're keeping as little contact between your warm hands and the cold butter, marge, whatever you're using. So we're just picking it up, squeezing it between our fingertips. So you're picking up the lumps of fat and the flour and you're just rubbing them together. So I'll do that side on so you can see that again. So I'm using my thumb to push, just like that, the butter into the flour. And if you look in the bowl, you can see there's now like little cream curls sitting on the top. But there's not a lot of contact here. This is just literally dip in, pick it up, squeeze it, put it down. Just toss it around a bit, make sure we get all the lumps coming up to the top. Can you see how it's already starting to come together as breadcrumbs? Once it's all mixed in, that is the consistency you're looking for. A bowl full of breadcrumbs. Sounds weird? Wait until you see the end result. You see, there's some lighter sections in here because I've still got quite a bit of flour sitting on the bottom. So we'll just go through. Feels a lot drier though. You can feel as you go through whether there's any lumps of butter. I'm using butter just for the generic because margarine, it's all very posh, isn't it? And Marge is a little bit common, so I'm just using butter. As I've already stated, it is margarine that has gone in. There are some companies, brand names, which I'm not going to use, who actually make baking fat, like pastry fats, which are perfect. And they do exactly what they say on the tin. So right, just to recap what we've got in here, or what you will have in your bowl. You will have 8 ounces of plain all-purpose flour. You will have 1/4 teaspoon of your good old-fashioned table salt, and 4 ounces of whichever fat you choose to use. Right, okay. Now you can see it does get a little bit messy. It's not too bad. Shake your bowl. You're looking to not get masses and masses of lumps on the top. And this is not fat. These are just breadcrumbs that are slightly larger than the others. So all of the fat has been rubbed in now. I'm just going to wash my hands, because I'm actually going to, I don't want to have too much contact with the fat, and because I'm going to bring it all together with a fork now. Ooh. There we go. Drying my hands again. Now, depending on the flour, different flours have different absorbencies. So how much water you'll need will be all down to the eye. Somewhere between 60 and 90. 60 and 90? Hang on, I'll just check. No, I've got 60 and 90. You need, they suggest between 5 and 7 millilitres of water. 5 mils is the big end of your kid's medicine spoon. So you can tell it's not a lot of water. This is 90 millilitres of water. This is the most I should need. I might not need it all. So take your fork, make a little well in the middle. Just means a hole. Pour in some of the water. Don't pour it all on in one go. And start bringing it together. Bit ooky, but remember you use the fork because you're keeping the heat out of there. You do not want to melt this butter, this fat, before you're ready, before it goes in the oven. I need a bit more. Still got a little bit left, look. Let's just bring it together. And you're just pushing it together, using the water almost like a glue to hold everything together. But it is very much a case of different flours have different absorbencies. Everybody has a different set of scales. Everybody has a different jug. And regardless of what they say on the packet, they are marginally different. So use your eye. There's still a lot of loose stuff in there for my liking, so I'm going to add just a touch more. Still a little bit left in there out of my 90, remember? So I know a lot of you looked at that in the first place and go, ooh, that's not enough. So, bringing it together. And I'm going to have to abandon my fork in a second and get the stuff off, the pastry off my fork. Now, I'm not going to chill it today, but sometimes I do. So fingertips again, squeeze it together, because we're going to pop it out of the bowl in a second onto a floured surface, which is why I've got my jar of plain flour there. See how that's all come together? Looks a little bit mottled and a bit wet in places, but that's okay, because you're going to use the flour to very gently, just pop that there a second. I'll get rid of my salt. Just wipe this off here. That's flour. I told you it gets messy. It's literally just flour and bits of pastry. So, a little bit of flour on the counter. I'm going to put more on in a minute, just spread it out. I don't need my water anymore, but we're just going to take the dough, my bowl out of the way, and just very quickly knead it together. You do not want to be working on this like a loaf of bread. If you stretch the dough, then your pastry is going to spring back. Now, this is my dough for this dish. This dish, as you can see, I've got little hands, but still, this dish is a 10-inch dish. I've purposely done more because I'm also going to do a smaller one later. So I'm going to have a bit of the dough left over. So, flour your rolling pin. Get some more flour out, just pop it on the side, just like a little mountain that we can take from. Sprinkle a little bit of flour over the top, not a lot. You don't want to be adding huge amounts of flour into the floury dough. Remember, there are only 3 ingredients in here other than water. So, rolling out. Try to keep your strokes even. You'll see that it does spring back slightly, and all I did was knock it together. If you work it as if it's, you know, something big loaf of bread, then you're going to find it's going to go ding, and it's going to be like an elastic band, and you'll roll it out to something this size, and you'll turn your back and it'll be this size again. Really not what you want. Okay. Keep flouring your rolling pin. Make sure, see, I didn't go far enough back, so this is going to be a big piece of dough, I think. All I've done is increased my ingredients by a half. I need it a little bit bigger because I'm doing a second one, like I said. Just a smaller one later. Just flour the dough again. Flour the counter again. And flip it over. So this is the bit that was against the counter just now. Again, flour the rolling pin. We don't want this to be massively thick. The thicker it is, the longer it's going to take to cook. So can you see how it's having difficulty moving there? That tells me that's sticking to the counter. So I'm going to lift that slightly. Yeah, peeling back. Can you see how it's shiny under there? That tells me that there wasn't enough flour there. So just flour the counter again, and that should now move. There you go. Moves like a rocket. Roll it out. Roll it out. Now this is the pastry you can use to make all sorts of products, including jam tarts, fruit cakes. Yes, exactly. Voice from beyond. Different kinds of pies. We're just using a single layer of it today. This amount, if you've got, say for example you buy some of these are quiche tins, and currently if you're in lockdown these are available from online supermarkets and bigger markets, if you know what I mean. And so they'll be delivered to you. Then a matter of a few pound and you get 10 dozen, something like that. Good to keep in the cupboard. So, thin out this middle bit. Oh, that's sticking there again. So remember, use your rolling pin as your prop and just bring it back. You see, unlike the Play-Doh we were making yesterday, this does get messy, this does get sticky. but you don't want to spend too much time working your dough. Now I need to move this slightly, whee, just to the edge, because I decided that my food mixer needed to be in here rather than in the bakery. So and I'm getting this really thin. Oh, it's not moving again. I must be sticky again. Oh no! Emergency flour distribution. Have fun with it. And honestly guys, look, when it comes to cooking, it doesn't matter if you screw it up. It doesn't matter if little Jimmy comes along and goes, "Oh Mum, what's that?" Fold it. Oh, can I have a go? Just roll it out. Roll it back again. It's all fixable. This is dough. Food should be something you enjoy cooking. Kids these days are too afraid to cook. They're too afraid of the work involved because we don't encourage them anymore. Everything's too easy. Everything is too convenient. It's easy to head to the fridge and pull out a ready-made quiche. But you know what? We've only been a few minutes making this. It's taking longer because I'm talking, as everything does. But this, when it comes to quiches like this, you just include everything that your kid likes. Obviously, I'm talking about things like hot dogs. Please don't be putting in anything weird like Lego blocks or anything like that. I know little Jimmy likes to stick it up his nose, but please don't put it in the pie. Right, so this dough needs to come up the sides. So we are going to do it by eye. Look at it. I've got about 2 fingers deep, so I want about 2 fingers thickness all the way around the pie. Told you I wasn't putting my knife away. All the way around, about the 2 fingers. If it's not right, it's not right. Oh, hello. It doesn't matter. It is all your work, and just because you made a boo-boo and it's not round doesn't mean to say it's not going to taste good. We eat with all of our senses, not just our eyes. I'm popping that to the side because that's the stuff I'll put back together and I'll use for my other quiche. I'll take it off and then get the rolling pin. This is your best friend when it comes to dough. Up it down. Just gently, now you've hooked the dough over, it's just sat on it, and just roll it as you lift it. So you can see, it's half and half. Move your dish into place, and drape. And don't worry if you don't get it in the right place. It will, once you lift it up off the counter, stretch anyway. So just pull it into place. Alright? Doesn't matter if it's not right. We need to get the air out from underneath though. So that's what this is for. You were gifted with knuckles. Doesn't matter whether it's this knuckle, this. They're back. Technology gremlins at it again. So we're back onto my phone. Okay. Again, it doesn't matter which knuckles you use. Whatever you need, we're just going to tuck the dough into the corners. We're not pushing, so there's no stretching of dough going on here. So we're just pushing it into the corners so it's still loose so the air can get out. Incidentally, doesn't really matter too much how thick your dough is, except to say that the thicker the dough is, I mean mine's actually probably a bit thicker than I would normally like. That's about 1/2 centimetre. I prefer it to be a lot thinner, but that's just my tastes for a quiche. plus the fact that I really am trying to lose a little bit of weight. So you see how I pushed it into the corners there. Now we're going to use our fingertips. So just push it to the side. It's greased, so when it cooks, it is going to lift away. And that's okay, that is to be expected. The air that's underneath has to have somewhere to go. So all you're doing is pushing it. And as you do that, you'll see that it comes up to the edge in the places that you've, this is wonky. Look at that, it's flappy there. Nothing on here. That's okay. Does it matter? Not a whit. Is it going to taste any different? No. And anyway, we're going to tidy it up. So, big thing. As this cooks, air will accumulate. Let's let it out. How's your aggression levels? Bet you've been in lockdown for a while. This is going to be very therapeutic. So we're going to poke holes in it all the way round. We're just giving the air somewhere to get out. We're putting a back door into the dough all the way, all over the bottom, because in a minute when we put the parchment in and put the beans on, we're going to be weighting it down. There's going to be nowhere for it to go. So that's my pretty pattern. Isn't it lovely, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls? Fabulous. Now we're going to trim it up. Same knife you were using before. Keep it level. We're not digging it in. That's just going to leave holes in the bottom. So we're just going to go around, slight angle, and just trim off anything that we don't need. You don't have to be fancy pantsy and put it in your hand. You could just bring it up to the edge. I'll just turn that off. Bring it to the edge of the tray, hold it in place, and just do it this way. Just like that. See? Much neater. It's all going to pull in. It's all going to pull away from the sides. Don't worry about the way it looks. Right. Baking parchment. I love this stuff. This is the stuff you need in your life. This keeps your trays clean when you're cooking anything. This stops things burning when you put it over the top if it's got to cook for a long time. This stuff is an absolute godsend in the bottom of your oven when your pies explode or your Kievs start drooling all over the side of the tray, or you've got fat rolling down off your sausage tray, anything like that. Got your parchment at the bottom of the oven, you whip it out afterwards. Bosh, clean oven. Incidentally, I didn't do that. I have a big tray at the bottom of mine. So, it's just going to sit in there. Like I say, these are just beans. All they are, dried beans. There's a couple of different varieties in there. Doesn't really matter. Not going to flavour it. And we're going to pop them in. Right. Nothing pretty about that. We're just going to move it to the sides. And we're weighting down the dough. Reason being, if the dough is weighted down, then you don't have bubbles forming in the pastry, which means that your pastry is thinning out, which means that when you put your filling in, it oozes into the quiche. This is called blind baking. And you see how your parchment is actually going over the sides. And do you remember how I said before, you can use your parchment over the top of things that need to cook for a long time to stop them burning. That's exactly what's going to happen here. This is going to go into the oven about 20 minutes. We want it to be virtually cooked, but not browned, because the browning on the edges, obviously you'll not see the rest of it, is what we want to happen when we've put the quiche in afterwards. So, remember what I said? Fan assisted oven, 200 degrees. 220 if it's not. Okay, and we'll just pop it in center of the oven. You don't want it too high. And just pop it in and walk away. Right, I'm going to put a pause on the filming now, and then we'll come back to it when it's cooked. But set your alarms for 15 minutes and go and check. Just lift the edge of the parchment a little. If you lift it up, you'll see the beans underneath. Dough, when it's not cooked, has quite a fatty look to it. And I don't know whether you've ever had your generic high street pastry. Sometimes it's been taken out of the oven too fast, and you can see it's sort of a grey gloopiness to the bottom of the pie. Mary Berry soggy bottom, you don't want that. So 15-20 minutes, you know your oven, judge it by eye. If it looks like it's almost cooked, it's like a pale pastry that it's not too attractive to eat just yet, take it out, okay? And then just pop it on the side and we'll come back to it in just a roly-mo, okay? I'll see you in 5. Hello, we're back again. Right, okay, if you have a look, these have come out of the oven. I've probably left it just a little too long because you can see how it's going dark brown on the sides. But can you see the colour of it? It looks virtually cooked. There are some grey areas. Incidentally, I did wash my hands. And there are minimal bubbles. If I hadn't have put the beans in, which I literally just lifted out on the greaseproof and it stayed intact. If I hadn't have put the beans in, then the base would have looked like the sides. You can stuff it with beans or pasta or your baking bowl things. But you know what? It gives a bit of character. It'll just crumble as you cut into it. So this is the other one I used. Obviously this has cooled down a little bit now. You can see the beans are in there. They are red hot when they come out. So literally all you do, take the edges, lift it off, lift it away. That's what I mean about, I can take this out for you. It's that easy. That's what I mean when it comes away. But can you see the colour of it in comparison to this one? You've got areas that look a little bit more doughy. It won't make a difference because the base is cooked. Look. It will continue to cook in the oven. Now, the base is fairly cool now. As I said, I'm going to do pizza one. So I need some oregano, which I forgot to get out just now. And I'm not going to be able to find it easily in my cupboard. Typically, margarine, oregano, there we go. So, right, to make the filling, we have, now I've doubled the recipe, because obviously I'm making the 2 and one of them is much, much larger. I have 300 millilitres of milk. Now we've all got these slightly orangey plastic jugs. If you haven't, then you don't have a child with a love for baked beans and a microwave. So anyway, 300 mils of milk. Single batch you would use 150. Same amount of cream. I've got 300, you'd use 150. I've got some tomatoes. Personally, I like the baby plum tomatoes. I find them sweeter and they've got that little bit of punch to them. But you can use whatever you like. Whatever you fancy, whatever your children will eat. It could be just full of cheese, it could be onions, it could be sausages, there could be bacon. I've done salmon and asparagus before now. We've had plain vegetarian ones. Haven't tried, obviously it's eggs, so vegan is out the window. Unless you're the kind of vegan that raises your own produce. I've got some tomato puree because I need the tomatoey pizza base. I've got some plain pepperoni. I've got some hot pepperoni because pow. I've got some grated cheese. I've got some sliced red peppers. Now I've sliced them very thinly. This isn't going to take long to cook, so you don't want things in there that are too large or too thick to cook through when you put it in the oven. Okay? These are simply washed, deseeded and thinly sliced. Salt and freshly ground pepper, 6 eggs, and I've got my oregano, as we saw earlier. Mixing bowl, whisk. You can use a hand whisk, you can use one of those cake mixery thingies, or you can use one of the electric zzz kind. Makes me look like a mass murderer, the psycho. No, it's not. So, the way I'm doing it, we're going to paint. I've got my handy little man, and I'm just going to, oh, this is going to spin all over the place, typically. We're going to stop it. If you've got anything that moves when you're using it in the kitchen, if it's your chopping board starts skidding all around all over the place, or in this case my dish. Oh, look at that, it's moving in there. That's how loose it is in the tray. Then you just put a towel or a paper towel or whatever underneath. Typically I put the towel underneath the dish, and now my actual quiche base is moving around the bowl. Not my intention. So I'm just painting it with some of the tomato paste. Let's get a big blob in there. I'll get another big blob. That's it, squidge it in, plop it about. If it goes up the sides, it doesn't matter. It's just adding a bit of oomph to the flavour. You don't need to put anything in. You can if you wish. But I like to have the tomato on the base, so it just gives it a little bit of a, it's almost like putting a line in the quiche. So it's like drawing a line between the base and the filling. And there's this thin red line, it's packed with flavour. So pushing that all around. So yeah, it's not very thick, you can see straight through it. I'm very quickly going to blob on this one as well. Like I say, I'm doing this one for a friend. Just very quickly. There are pretty much unlimited amounts of what you can put into a quiche. Don't overdo it though. This isn't a casserole. Have a look in the cupboards and choose a few different flavours, a few different items to go into it. We're not doing drunken, roll in from the pub, mishmash. Oh, I'm just going to have everything in there. It won't cook properly. And you're going to find that your egg, because it grows, we're not going to fill this because it will grow as you cook it. You want about half depth. If you then put half depth of your egg mix and then fill it with just about anything you've got in the cupboard or the fridge, that's going to grow. I don't know whether any of you saw the original B movie The Blob, but that's what's going to happen in your oven. So I'm using the oregano. I'm just going to, this is just dried oregano. If you've got fresh, use fresh. Doesn't matter. Now, last time I did this, I didn't really have enough oregano in there, so I'm going to put a little bit more in. Just good pop of flavour. And again on this one. Pop that back in the cupboard. Right. Now, before I start making the egg mix, I'm going to pop the, what's it called? Pepperoni, that's what I'm looking for, into the dishes. A pepperoni is a fatty meat. Don't be too tempted to start whapping it in like it's going out of fashion. That fat will spread into your quiche. I have to say, the giggle is because the camera lady has got a gob open. There you go, camera lady. Last slice goes to the cameraman. Right. I love this one. It's almost like chorizo, this particular one. It's a good, thick, meaty pepperoni. I'm just going to pop some in. When you fill it, if this then floats up, it doesn't matter. You'll just have chorizo at the top. It doesn't matter what it looks like. This isn't an artwork. This is your lunch. This is your salad filler. This is your kids' healthy school dinner. Whatever you're doing, give the kids the chance to choose what they're putting in this. Believe me, they're going to come up with some stuff that's you're going to go, oh dear Lord. Now, I'm not suggesting you let them put a sling of tin of beans in here, because let's face it, that's a whole lot of mess I don't want to see. Oh, camera lady also wants some of the hot stuff. Right, I'm just going to wash that off my hands because that's got quite an oily texture to it. So I've prettified it. Yes, it's all very pretty. It's not going to look like that. And by the time it gets down here, it's not going to look like that. Not even close. So in my bowl I have 6 eggs. These are medium eggs, and some of them have burst as I've put them in. And yes, I fished the shell out of it because we'll all get the shell. I use free range eggs because they've got a better colour and a better flavour. Fresher the better, but use what you've got. So I'm just going to beat these up just as you would if you were making an omelette or you were using it for egg wash. Just beat it up so it's all mixed in. So you've got, I have to say, I'm moving to you now because, and I'll show you, the cameraman is sat on the counter. Say hello, cameraman. Apparently she's mute these days. Don't you believe it for a second. So, beating the eggs, good pinch of salt, good pinch of freshly ground pepper, if you got it. Oh, I'm getting this from behind the camera. It's just like, I'm not talking to you. Now I've lost my train of thought. Right, so mix in the salt and pepper. It's just seasoning. You don't, I mean, I've got, this is coarse sea salt I'm using, and coarsely ground with pepper with a pestle and mortar, just because I'm a little bit chefy in that respect. And I like the flavour of it. I like, when it comes to pepper, if you put the powdered stuff in, you'll get a sort of taste to it, and it'll go right the way through. The bigger the pieces, the bigger the pow you get. So it's like little pops of flavour in your mouth when you come across it. Sometimes if it's a little bit too big, it's like your eyes are going to fly out, but it's fine, it's good. So next, simply pour in the milk, and pour in the cream. I like to stand here a little bit so I like to get the most out of it. Now if I was making a hot dish, I would probably, just because I like all the cream, I didn't get to this size by not, I would probably wait, pop it on top of the spatula or something and let it drain in. But just rinsing it out because recycling is better if it's rinsed. Pop that in my recycling bin. Okay. Killing time. Don't change the temperature on your oven though when you take your pastry out. It's going in at the same temperature. And we'll just mix these together. So you can see it's gone from the beaten yellow to a lovely luscious cream colour. And you know, it doesn't take a lot of effort. See, there's speckles of black in there from the pepper. Yummy, yummy. If you want to be a little bit zhuzhy, you could always throw some nice paprika in there, smoked or hot. I wouldn't go for the sweet. Sweet paprika, it doesn't balance very well with the eggs. Just normal stuff's fine. Right, okay. We have the eggs. Now, I'm just going to pour this on. All of my pretty patterns are about to head for the hills. So I'm going to sort of divide it between these two, and you can see some of the cream is just floating on the top there. Oh look, me what's it called? Me help me out here, kid. Pepperoni. That's a brand name. I do apologise. Is floating to the top. So more in that one.
Keep it coming.
Keep it. If I keep it coming, it's going to explode everywhere. A little bit more in there. There's a little bit of a tilt on my cooker, so I need to be aware. Okay. And I'll just pop it inside. Okay, you can see there's still a little finger width from the top. Doesn't look particularly chefy at the minute. One thing I will say, if you're going to use these foil tins, put a tray underneath it, because they are very flexible otherwise, and the last thing you want to do is pick up your tin and it to go, it's your quiche wasted. So, I'm just going to get a little full, and just purely because they're floating up and I want to put some more stuff in now, I'm just going to push down the pepperoni. It'll stay in approximately the same place. Now, a little bit chefy because I like patterns. I'm going to pop some tomatoes in. Put a nice all the way around the circle. Ooh, if I can. Some of them are going to be drunk. Like I say, these are I do apologise, I have a frog in my throat. Don't know where that came from. Maybe it's Corona. I'm kidding, I'm well. I'll just pop that in there. Just move that out of the way.
It's the gruffalo.
Oh, the gruffalo. Did everybody enjoy the story earlier? Oh,
you missed the pie.
I'll do the other one. Ha-ha! Right, okay. Now I won't go quite so many because I'm fairly sure this is going to be eaten in one go. Probably be inhaled. So you know who you are. There we go. Push up to the edge. So, just indicates where it should be cut. It won't be cut. Under no circumstances will this pie be cut, except with a knife and fork.
Avoid the teeth.
The teeth? Oh! Oh no! Hopefully not. I'm trying to pick it up and just chow down on it. Now I've got some red pepper. I'm a big fan of red, as you can probably tell.
That looked like a candy cane.
Candy cane? Ooh! I wouldn't recommend candy canes in this. And I'm just going to pop it in between the... Oh, that's probably a bit thick. Oh, it's alright. I found a home for it. There we go. So, it's floating in there. Absolutely fine. And get over there. Now there's no hard and fast rule as to when this is going to be cooked, because Everybody's cooker is different. Ooh, get over. Get over. They're always floating around all over the place. Well, it did look all chefy, and these are mad peppers. No, apparently not. The child wants them again. Right, and last but not least, and there is a mountain of cheese here. We're not putting it all in. Nom 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 from the other room. It's purely just because it's grated, and if I don't have enough grated, then there'll be war. Okay, we're not putting a lot on. Cheese again is greasy. You don't want the grease. This is a healthy option. You can just use milk. You don't need to use cream. Cream gives it a better flavour. But you know what? There are so many reduced fat creams out there that you're always going to be able to find yourself an alternative. I've actually used single cream here, but I'm sure there are people out there that are going to use double, but quite frankly I'd never be able to get through the door. So we're just going to put a little sprinkling of cheese over the top, just for a little hit of flavour when it comes out. Okay, not a lot. Quite a big quiche this one. A bit more in the middle. And then same again on the other one. Do you see how the more we put in, the higher this is getting? This is, you don't want something that's going to you know, pinky in the brain it and take over the world. Or try to anyway. That is not where we're going with this. Okay, ooh, a little bit more on the edge there. More. Child, you can have the cheese later. I'm terrible actually. If I did this, if I just carried on, there'd be cheese everywhere. It's just, it's fine that you need to stop yourself. And then we're simply going to put it back in the oven, middle shelf. Be very careful because obviously it is very runny. Pop it in gently, mind your fingers. Please, if you're doing this with the children, you do the oven. Oh no, look, told you, very gently, it's slopped. It's not a problem. It's going to look as fun dabby dozy as you might want it to. And you know what? Who cares? You're not making it for the Queen. You're making it for your belly. Just... You see my belly? Enjoy cooking. Enjoy the flavours. Build something that you look at and think, Now, we're cooking it, not for any specified length of time. Each different size quiche will take a different length of time. Again, I haven't changed the temperature. It is still 200 degrees Celsius in my fan assisted oven. Keep an eye on it. Check through the door. Please don't open the door like ta-da! If you have to open the door, very gently pull it towards you, allow the hot air to escape slowly. Then when sort of like the pressure vacuumy bits happened, open it the rest of the way if you need to check. It's better to look through the glass if you possibly can. You're looking, well, I'll tell you what's going to happen. It's going to rise. And it'll probably rise to about that far above. She's fiddling with dishes. It'll probably rise to about that far above the case. And that's perfect. And it's going to rise on a curve from the outside in. It'll rise pale, and then it'll start to get brown from the outside in. Once it's gone nice and brown, sort of a good sort of very golden brown, it'll be patchy, but that's to be expected. test it. Give it a little shake. It should just have a tiny little wobble in the middle. When you've got that tiny little wobble, take it out. It's golden brown, it's risen. Probably taken over your oven if you put too much in. It's fine. Take it out, put it aside to cool. Once it's cooled down, because of the residual heat, any wibble that was in there is going to be cooked solid. It will continue to cook on the side because of the residual heat. It will look like this when you take it out. It will look like this once it's cooled. That is correct. That is what you're looking for. It will probably be a bit wibbly on the top of it. It's not a problem. It doesn't matter. It's not going to be flat. There's something wrong with it if it is flat. If you can see your face in it like a mirror, you've done it wrong. There's something not right with that. So, when it's ready, it'll be golden brown. It'll be risen. I tell you what it looks like. It looks like your pastry crust will have one of those those air bounce things from when you're on holiday in the Balearics or something. Big stripy thing, looks a bit like a circus tent for the kids to climb and bounce on top of, and they'll be embedded into the ground. It's essentially what this is going to look like. Bouncy, little bit of wibble, golden brown all over, patchy golden brown. Don't expect perfection. Take it out, leave it on the side, walk away. It will settle down as it cools, and it will finish cooking as it cools. Once it's cooled completely down, you can put it in the fridge. You can eat it hot if you want. Personally, I prefer it to be cooler. Put it in the fridge, but only once it's cooled. Otherwise you cause all sorts of bacterial infections, and the temperature inside your fridge will go up, and oh, we'll have a nightmare. There'll be people falling down sick everywhere. It's not what we want. So I will take another very short clip at the end of this video to show you what my quiches look like, and I really hope you enjoy making yours. Put your imagination to good use. Use the flavours you want. Just go for it and enjoy. See you on the other side. Okay guys, I have literally just taken these out of the oven. They've been out less than a minute, and you can see on this one how it's still quite heaped, and this one's already starting to sink down. Now I want to show you what I meant by the wobble. You see that little wobble? And it's the same on this one. That's exactly what you're looking for. Now I've used tomatoes, so they do release a little bit of juice. You just get yourself a good piece of kitchen towel and just soak up if there's too much. It's actually not too bad today, because what are they called? Tomatoes, that's the ones, do tend to give off a little bit of juice when they burst. These ones are quite nice. So that, guys, is our quiche. Hopefully you're looking at a similar thing. Whatever it looks like, try it, taste it, enjoy it. If it's not quite right, tweak it next time. Try something different if the flavours aren't quite what you were expecting. Whatever you do, enjoy it. Have fun with it. Let me know how you get on in the comments below. Alright, take care, thank you for coming, and mwah, we'll see you next time.